Balloon Live, the only live dating show where singles test their chemistry and compete for a first date. Only one thing is certain: when their balloon pops, so does their chance at love.
You've probably seen Pop the Balloon before on YouTube, starring Arlette as the host. But did you know that Netflix recently did a show of their own? And yes, Arlette was involved, so don't worry about that.
Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. It's your host Arlette, and we are joined here today with my lovely husband, BM.
Yep. Obviously, you've all have been seeing we have signed to produce Pop the Balloon on Netflix. We will be executive producers on the new Pop the Balloon Live.
And I did enjoy the first 2 episodes, which I have seen, because those are the ones that are out at the moment.
Hi everyone, I'm Zaina. I am 34 years old. I'm originally from Maryland, but I live in LA. I'm an entrepreneur in the wellness space, and I'm looking for someone who's like really intentional about dating right now.
What I actually want to talk about, though, is not production, not the show, but actually the questions posed to contestants.
So why did you pop your balloon?
It was multiple things. I do have a physical type, which is black, but also you're a little older for my liking.
Honey, how old are you?
I'm black from the waist up.
Okay.
The waist.
You came out weird and colorblind. What are you saying, bro?
And how sometimes the questions we ask in dating shows, or even when we're dating in real life, are sometimes the reason we're not actually finding our high compatibility partners. So if you guys don't know, this is a philosophy through pop culture kind of channel. We explore what it means to be a person living on the planet, how to be joyful in who we are, and how to find good connections. And so I subscribe to a belief called high compatibility partners. I made it up. It just means literally using the data to come to a point of meeting somebody that just statistically and probability wise makes the most sense for your long-term partnership. Yes, there's love, and yes, it feels like a soulmate, but there's really no magic at play. It's just about compatibility, and that compatibility is found through asking the right questions.
What are your red flags in a man?
Some of my top red flags is a man who is like inconsistent. For a life partner, you want someone that will wake up and choose you every single day. So if someone is inconsistent, like in a relationship, like I'm honestly like looking for someone to marry. Like I'm in that phase in my life.
So if you watch shows like The Balloon, you'll see that the questions the contestants ask each other can range from really thoughtful to less thoughtful.
I am Casey. I'm 30 years old. I am from Charlotte, North Carolina originally. I work at a sports media company. Love my job, very career oriented.
Okay.
The last couple years, so I would love someone to kind of bring me out of that, bring me more into my feminine energy.
Ooh, we
right?
love, I mean, girl, you got the thighs out.
The legs are out today.
The legs are out.
Oh.
So Floyd, can you tell us about yourself?
My name is Floyd. I'm 29. I'm a pilot. The reason why I pop is just the legs. That's it.
I respect it.
You don't like legs?
No, I want to be amused with the clothes on.
I also noticed, and I just have to point this out, that some of the contestants are obviously not there for love, and worse than that, aren't being called out on really bad behavior, and I do hope the producers stop that for future episodes.
Who on the stage would have been your type?
We're gonna start with the toes. Let's see.
Oh, thank
She's
God.
got really pretty toes.
Oh. Me?
You've got really pretty toes. You look like you sleep from a tree upside down.
Me? Oh, you don't want this smoke from me, Johnny. What's he talking about me?
These types of questions, jokes, or remarks in a dating situation are never appropriate. And this is, I guess, a sign that if you're on a date with a man like this, it's an opportunity for you to say, oh, absolutely not. You would be surprised at how many of us, myself included, in our 20s saw huge red flags in people and made excuses for them, or understood why they were so damaged because their childhood was hard, or we were trying to live for their potential. It's obvious that not everybody who's dating is in it for marriage.
Women I deal with, they don't have hair on their
Don't
arms.
do too much.
Hey, I'm just being honest,
Don't
Queen.
do too much.
You know, I don't like that. That's
Okay.
all I was looking at. You trying to say if I'm looking at particular body
You just
parts,
wasn't
but
looking at
that's
my
not
eyes.
what it is.
That's
No, I was
all
looking at the
pointing
hair on
out.
your
Anyways,
arms, Queen.
she asked me the question.
Yeah.
We do still have 3 unpop, but she looking like you gonna pop? Okay. Okay. All right. If we can have your name and age and why you ended up popping.
My name is Jacqueline. I'm 25. I popped because I have hair on my arms.
But what does marriage even mean in a society and in a world that is all about settling?
What do you look for?
A woman, like I said, that's not going to be promiscuous. A woman that's going to be consistent. A woman that has a career and things going for herself.
How old are you?
I'm 29. How old are you?
23.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that's perfectly fine.
Step on over here. Let's step that way real quick for me. Step that way.
Okay.
All right. So seems like there's a little vibe here. So is it gonna be a yes for you for him?
God says save souls, so yeah.
Oh, and is it a yes for you
It's
for her?
gonna be a hell yes for me.
Okay, we got a match. All right, let me take this mic and y'all can go on off. Okay.
What good is companionship if the divorce rate is so clear because we're all settling for people that aren't high compatibility? In the 2 episodes of Pop the Balloon that I did see, I didn't see any couple that I thought, ooh, this is their high compatibility partner.
I like movies a lot. What are some of your favorite movies?
I love White Chicks. Remember the Titans?
Oh.
Is a classic. Yeah.
This is a lock for sure.
Okay, same thing, same question. Is it a pop or is it a lock?
You know, confidence goes a long way for me. So it's a lock.
High compatibility has 2 components. The va-va-voom, which is that sexual chemistry, and that exists even if you're in an asexual unionship, right? It doesn't matter if you're asexual or demisexual or allosexual. What matters is that the va-va-voom is on the same page. You're on the same page when it comes to intimacy. And the secondary component is the resume. And the resume is what we're going to talk about today in relation to the questions you will ask on these dates to hopefully understand and vet if these people are your high compatibility partner. So I put it into 5 categories, and I've got my notes here, so I'm going to kind of look off screen to look at them. The first is lifestyle-based questions. And this is assuming that you're on a first date, or at least in the first stages of talking, and you have the intention of marrying and living out your life with this high compatibility partner. You want a partner that feels like a soulmate. You want to be with the person that feels like your best friend. You want to be with the person who's on your team. You want to be with the person who's actually going to be with you through Alzheimer's and cancer and disability and everything else that life might throw at you. You want to make sure that you're with somebody that life gets hard, but the marriage doesn't. Yes, life will test you, but that doesn't mean the testing has to come from inside the marriage. I do want to take note that I do think personally the high divorce rate is a reflection of settling culture, lack of values on everyone's part, and of course, a lack of knowing the self. When you don't know yourself, regardless of how old you are, you enter into a union that can cause problems down the line. Let's say you grow in a different direction or the other person doesn't grow, and then the stagnation ends up ruining the compatibility. And that's that resume that we're talking about, because the resume is about the values, the way you see the world, the way you think about the world. What do you do when temptation comes knocking? You're going to ask on that first date or whatever works for you during that dating process, what does our realistic life look like? You know, when you go on a date and someone like, oh, do you like to travel? And they go, yeah, I love to travel. That is actually a very common fib that people say. They'll say, oh, I love to travel, but they really do not travel or like to travel. And I will say, as a person in my youth who thought I liked to travel, I actually realized after traveling a bit, I don't like it that much. And so when my partner and I were in our courting phase and I was like, what does your lifestyle look like? I was really excited to hear that they were more of a homebody, because me too. And that might not feel that important to you, but as a person whose parents have been married for 40 years plus, one of the things that they kind of really are similar on is they like to be at home. Even though my mother is more of an adventurer than my father, and it does take a little bit of, encouragement to get him out of the house to go do something, ultimately they are more on the same page than not on the same page. And that's what you're looking for. Even though I'm a little more outgoing than my partner, so mimicking my parents' marriage here, it doesn't mean that we're not on the same page, generally speaking. And this is where you have to be very honest about deal breakers. You do not want to be uncomfortable for the rest of your life. This is a really difficult question to answer as well, because you have to be honest with the kind of person that you are. And you have to accept that maybe you'll look different in your 20s than you do in your 40s. So when I was being raised by my parents, I saw them from their 30s to their 60s. They were different people. In their 30s and 40s, much more social. They had get-togethers every weekend. People were always at our house. At one point, I even grew up with parents who watched football and would have game days, but that was something that eventually stopped. I can't even think of the name. What's the event that the NFL does and everybody watches it and it's like the big football game? This is how outside of sports I am. To be fair, I'm very gay and I don't pay attention to sports. What is that called? The homecoming? The home run? Touchdown? What is this name? Football celebration? The Super Bowl? Is that what it's called? Super Bowl? It is. Okay, the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl. My parents used to throw Super Bowl parties and then eventually just stopped. Eventually, my parents aged into their 40s and 50s and 60s and new traditions started. The reason I bring up my parents is because they were modeled in front of me. This was my understanding of what my future could look like. This was one of the options as a couple we could copy or end up being in terms of categorization. I also take into consideration my best friend's parents because I love them and they've also been married for like 50 something years and they have a really, really great relationship. Same thing, only they do love the Super Bowl. They actually are football people. people. And one of the key differences between my parents and my best friend's parents is my best friend's parents actually do travel every year. They go to different countries, they do different things. And that was another option I had. Did I want to be in a couple that stayed home every year? Or did I want to be in a couple that went to different countries every year? I ended up being the person who wanted to stay home. And obviously finances work into this. Most American families don't have time to go on vacation once a year to foreign countries. But I will say, generally speaking, it also, even if we had more money, probably would be the case that we would want to spend most of our time at home throughout the year. And again, this could change in our 40s and 50s and 60s, but for now in our 30s, we're kind of content to just be here. And to be fair, we live in Croatia and I wake up every day in that foreign country that people spend their vacation time visiting. So technically, I guess I'm on vacation all the time. You know what I mean? Like in a sense. One of the other examples I want to bring into this question about lifestyle is if you're queer, like I am, one of the other options I had for my life was a more queer adjacent lifestyle, more activism prone, more reach out to the community. There was a time in my 20s when I was volunteering, protesting, cleaning up streets, socializing every day with people, being a part of my physical communities. This is also another example of lifestyle expectation. Do we expect ourselves to be the kind of couple that end up reaching out to the community and are participants in our local communities? These are all very important questions that often get missed on the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh dates because they aren't the things that people are exactly thinking of, but they're exactly the reason a lot of divorces end up happening. There's a little bit of a stereotype that women outgrow their marriages with men because women end up becoming more community member focused, education focused, and they are curious and more open-minded.
There are a lot of political and social divisions in America right now, and some of them even show up in the finale of the Netflix dating show Love is Blind.
But I've always wanted a partner to be on the same wavelength, and so today I can't. I asked him about like Black Lives Matter, and I'm no expert, but like when I asked him about it, he was like, I guess I've never really thought too much about it.
This has actually been reflected in recent media where it showed that men are going more conservative and religious and women are going more progressive and non-religious.
She goes on longer in this, and it sounds like her frustration is it's somewhat ideological. I think that you have to have the same values in a marriage, but it honestly seems more like he just lacks intellectual curiosity, and that bothers her. Like that the answer just keeps being, oh, I didn't really think about it.
And I think when you're open-minded and curious and you're not held to a strict bubble in the religious sense, you tend to outgrow relationships that feel stagnant. And sometimes when you're religious or conservative, you tend to remain a little bit more stagnant because of the beliefs foundational to those bubbles. They just don't allow for the curiosity to exist. They also tend to be more anti-LGBT and a little bit more sex-shamey and honestly more misogynistic.
Because he said to her, I'm kind of ignorant towards that stuff.
Oh.
Like I didn't vote in the last. He says, like, I didn't vote in the last election. As long as I don't know, it's not gonna, do much.
Oh.
You can't marry somebody like that.
You need somebody informed, or else you might as well marry Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Yeah. So if women are leaning more liberal and men are leaning more conservative, then heterosexual people are going to struggle to find high compatibility partners. One of the tips that I have for people, and this has fundamentally changed my life, is to deconstruct gender and the expectations that come with it. I often hear in dating situations, the questions asked are very gender-based. As a woman, how will you perform as a mother? As a man, how will you perform as a father? As a man, how will you show up and protect the family? As a woman, how will you support and love and care for us? These are all gender-based questions, and I think ultimately stifle most relationships unless you are adhering to a very traditional binary relationship structure.
So what do you think a traditional relationship would look like?
Oh my gosh. Can you unpack that a little bit more?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm asking, would you want a relationship, let's say, like your mother would have had with her husband, or are you more along the lines of how dating is today? There's a lot more both of us being the present and holding the household down.
So I want to say that, first of all, this question is probably one of the hardest questions you can ask, because the truth is the only reason why I feel like the answer is changed is because of women. They've been better than they've ever been. Like before, it's easy to tell a woman stay at home when all you can do is stay home.
That's true.
They used to tell you guys you can't even vote because we don't believe that you have the brain to vote. So now the truth is, like, even though I've been raised, especially as Jamaican, like understanding and expecting to be the provider and do that, I do understand that you guys have more than you ever have. You guys have more opportunity than you ever had. And if you want to seek that opportunity, maybe I need to take care of the kids more.
But if you're like me, who's definitely more progressive, I highly recommend that you only, especially if you're a woman in a heterosexual situation, engage with men who are not interested in being a good man, but are interested in being a good person. I highly recommend dating men who have deconstructed the patriarchy, or misogyny, or even maleness and what it means to be a man. So when you're in your marriage and there is conflict, the conflict isn't resolved based off of gender expectation, but based off of realistic solutions that just make the team win in the end. Because ultimately you're on a team and you want to win regardless of the gender of any of the participants involved. The second question is about values. These are values-based questions. Values-based questions come from beliefs, which we'll get to next, but values come out of those beliefs, but values usually come first in conversations. So you'll be on a date with somebody and somebody will say, oh, how do you feel about this administration? How do you feel about gay kids? How do you feel about trans kids? What do you think about climate change? What's your opinion on capitalism? These are all questions that are value questions, and they're very, very important. As you guys know, the question I always ask every date that I go on is, how do you feel about trans children? What if we had a child and they came out to us as trans? How would that make you feel? What are your thoughts on that? That question has saved me so much time on first dates, never needing to go to a second date, because for me, it's not up for debate. I'm not interested in engaging with anyone that has any hesitation around validating our trans children. So for you, you have to pick a question that if they answer a particular way, that's it. Date is over. Red flag. Like, I'm not interested in that person. I don't want to have a conversation with you. No, I'm not going to help you deconstruct. And no, I'm not going to educate you, because at this point in the date, I'm not looking for a partner. I need to educate. And this rolls into gender binary roles, in which sometimes men feel like it is their job to train their women or help them grow. And you'll even hear women say that. Women will say, I want a man who leads. I want a man who educates. I want a man who's wise. I want a man I can rely on. It should be a team effort.
Okay, so my question is, I love a man that loves to lead and just has intention for, his future. So my question for you guys is, what do you see yourself in like the 5 to 10 years?
My name is Javian, I'm 23 years old, and I'm a media marketer. And in 5 to 10 years, I see myself like doing some personal training, like having clients, things like that, like really getting into more fitness stuff. So, yeah.
Okay.
Owning my own gym possibly too.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah, that'll be a real goal for me.
Now, make sure you ask these value-based questions, because they are going to tie into other things like lifestyle. Hey, what do you think about climate change? What are you doing to reduce our impact on the environment? And then that plays into lifestyle differences, beliefs around animal cruelty, or even plastic use. All of these things can change the way your life goes. That's why you see diversity amongst families. They're a reflection of values. You have the homesteaders, you have the city people, you have people that love private jets, celebrities mostly, but you know what I'm saying. You have people who will never get on an airplane because it's just so bad for the environment. You have people around the world all engaging in different lifestyles because it's a reflection of values. So make sure you guys are on the same page in terms of values, so your lifestyle matches and everything is working cohesively. Which brings us to number 3, fundamental belief questions. This one is very tricky, but it's actually pretty simple and straightforward all the same. But hear me out when I say, look out for how people answer questions. On Pop the Balloon, there was an individual there who was Christian. He would ask the women about their Christianity and their relationship too, because for him, it was very, very important. And though those women answered they were faith-based or Christian, he could tell that it wasn't enough for him.
All right, so Yinka,
Yes, sir.
you will ask Angela one question.
One question. Okay. Like you're Christian and everything. So what is it about Christianity that you follow that makes you excited?
I think it's just like the sense of peace that I get when I'm like, reading the scripture or like, being at church and like interacting with the community at the church home I have.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a sense of peace that I have.
Peace, okay.
Yeah.
Is this a pop or is it a lock?
So it's gonna be a pop.
It's gonna be a pop.
Okay, I have my reasons.
Okay, tell us why.
So my reason is, so I know you asked about the horoscope. For me, I feel like asking, like you asked if what his sign was, and then again, you're like, I'm not really into signs, so it's just like really contradicting. And as a Christian, for me, the horoscope thing is just like, doesn't make any sense to me. So that's why I pop.
Because there is a difference between, oh yeah, I believe in a Jesus, but I don't go to church. There's a difference between like, I don't just believe in Jesus, I actually go door to door and evangelize, right? There's a difference between, oh, I don't just believe in this religion, I am this religion. Everything about my life is this religion. My friends are only this religion. My family's only this religion. Everything I do is about this religion. I don't even shop on Sundays because of my religion. And ultimately, this is a huge fundamental difference in terms of beliefs, because not only do you have this religion, but you have the beliefs that go with this religion. All of these things should be discussed when dating or courting for long-term companionship, because they're the foundation for the relationship. They're the foundation for belief about reality itself. So when things go wrong in the world, we have something to lean on as our sort of foundational belief. A lot of people use religion in this way. When the world is crazy, lean on God. And in I think my relationship is more like when the world is crazy, lean on data, like lean on the facts, lean on the science, I think. Sometimes I'll see couples who say like, oh, I could date somebody who has a different religion than me or a different lifestyle or a different political outlook. And I think that's interesting. I certainly couldn't, but that's something you can also take into consideration. Maybe you are the person that's a Muslim who could date a Christian, or maybe you are the Buddhist who could date a Muslim, or a Christian who could date an atheist. Like maybe that is you. But for a lot of people, high compatibility partnership involves values and beliefs, and this needs to be very high. So when the world does get scary, when your kids are sick, when tragedy strikes, you know what reality you're leaning on and using to react appropriately to.
You are extremely beautiful, and yeah, that's the only reason why I popped, to be honest. Just the horoscope thing. I just don't like that horoscope. Okay. Like, I'm a Gemini, so guys, I'm a Gemini.
You know your own horoscope.
No, I know mine, but there's just this like really like bad, like really negativity about like horoscope, and I feel like you're not defined by that.
And she's
Yeah, you're
not.
not,
And
yeah.
she says she's not.
4 is transparency questions. These questions are very, very personal and often not recommended on a first date. Like I said, for my partner and I, we did a courting style dating. We had talked over DMs for about a couple weeks. We were pretty sure we were very high compatible. We had our first date over Discord, Zoom, screen, and it was like 8 hours and it was really great. It was a wonderful first date, but we had a transparency conversation. So we asked very personal questions. How much money is in your account? What are your medical backgrounds? What are your red flags? Could you tell me something about yourself that might be a reason why I should end this date right now?
I'm looking for an emotionally intelligent man.
Okay.
When was your last relationship, and what lesson did you learn that you won't carry into the new relationship?
My name is Javian, and real quick, I'm gonna keep the balloon alive real quick because I am young. She's beautiful, so I'm gonna keep it alive.
Yeah.
And I'll let you pop this balloon if it comes to it. I'm 23 years old, and I'm a media marketer. One thing that I wouldn't carry over to the next one is just like trust issues. I mean, I was cheated on, so I feel like I had to have those trust issues because it was valid. But I know that everybody deserves an equal chance, so I wouldn't carry that over to my next one.
Look at you, emotionally mature for your age.
Appreciate it.
And that's what matters.
Your partner has to know what they're signing up for. My partner and I were very transparent. This is how much we have in savings. This is our debt. Here's our goals. Here's how much I make. Here's how finances work for me. What is our life going to look like? Because that's important to us. What does our life look like? But more than that, it's about honesty. These transparency questions aren't just about what's shared. It's about the honesty that you need to evoke to share them. It's about saying, for us at least, we want a radically honest relationship. So another side detail is that we practice radical honesty in our relationship, which means through kindness, love, and compassion, we express things as true as we can, even if they can be slightly hurtful. And then we express that, oh, I think that hurt my feelings 5%, or I think that did hurt my feelings like a whole 50%. I think I need to cry about this, but let's come back and we'll talk about it analytically. Or maybe I'll engage with you emotionally and we can comfort each other through this process. The idea is that when you enter into a healthy relationship, 1, I know my partner only has the best intentions. And 2, my partner knows I only have the best intentions. So we never try to attack each other. We never raise our voices at each other. We don't cuss at each other. We don't have fights. I know a lot of people normalize fighting in a relationship. I didn't see my parents fight in that way growing up, and I certainly don't want to mimic any toxicity in my relationship.
If we were together, if we got in an argument, what's your communication style?
Yeah, it's so funny. I actually went to school and I was trying to be a marriage counselor. I did relationship therapy, so I studied a lot.
Plot twist.
And we study a lot with arguments and stuff like that. So me personally, I'm not the type of guy that's gonna yell. I'm a big dude. If I yell at you, it's gonna be more than what it is. I am very reserved, so I do take time to myself. I have dogs, so I like to walk my dogs. Obviously, I punch the bag. I'm a boxer, so I'm not a big fighter. I know some people like to see argumentative stuff, but that's not me.
So we don't fight. We talk and we discuss and we have conversation. And if one of us is too upset to further the conversation in the moment, we give each other a break, because that's just what a good friend does or a good partner does. Because at the end of the day, this is my best friend and this is my partner. But if my best friend was upset with me, I wouldn't be you have to sit down and have this convo. I'd be hey, let's take a 10-minute break. I love you. Let's take a second. There's no harm in taking a second. And then, of course, how you problem solve is a part of that. Ask them, how do you problem solve? You know, when things are bad, what do you do? What are some lessons from your previous relationship that you learned that you're not going to bring into this relationship?
What I learned from my last relationship is not to neglect red flags. Sometimes you see red flags, but you're just like, okay, I might change to a green one. But it actually gets darker, you know?
And if you're with somebody that hasn't been in relationships, or maybe you guys are really, really young and you haven't had a chance to date, or you're really, really old and you've been very religious or something, everyone has a unique background. It's not always about romantic relationships. What's something in your friendships you've seen or you've had conflict with your friends that you don't want to bring into a romantic relationship? What's something you saw your parents do that you're like, I don't want to bring that into my marriage? You know, you don't always have to have dating experience to have relationship experience. And the last one, and very important one, is intimacy questions. Questions regarding intimacy. That's that va-va-voom, right? So you've got the resume. Okay, that's just like a huge component of marriage. That's everything else. And then the physical intimacy, spiritual intimacy, emotional intimacy, romantic intimacy. That is very key. Again, whether you're asexual, allosexual, demisexual, it doesn't matter. You're two grown-ups, or many more, who are having an intimate connection, and that intimacy needs to be valued and respected and emphasized in the relationship, no matter the form it takes. So make sure you're on the same page in terms of how you express and receive that intimacy. We can talk about love languages, which are a construct, but I think a good tool. You can talk about ways that you feel loved. You can talk about ways that you're willing to show love. In some ways, you may be uncomfortable with showing love. You can talk about the details of whether or not you want to do something a little bit unorthodox, like a little bit of kink in the relationship, or maybe you're really religious and so certain things are completely off the table. Is your partner okay with that? How do you feel about infidelity, romantic infidelity, sexual infidelity, emotional infidelity? How do you feel about how we talk about our relationship with other people? How do you feel about how our intimacy life is shared with our friends and family? Some friends talk about their intimacy life. Some friends don't. Just make sure you're on the same page and make sure, you know, you have those weird, uncomfortable conversations. Example is adult content.
Now, what are some of your deal breakers?
Oh my gosh. It's 2025. I gotta say this. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have to. But like, for the sake of my kids, our future kids that I don't have yet, please, because kids are brutal today. If you have something for a subscription for $9.95 to OnlyFans or something like that, where they can get made fun of at the lunch table, or I gotta actually, when someone toasts and says, hey, I know she'll make you happy, I gotta say, what do you mean by that? That's a problem for me. So I mean, I don't think that's a big ask, but in today, you just gotta ask that. So that's pretty much it.
Okay.
You know, I'm an OF person. I like making content. That was a huge conversation I had to have with my partner. How do you feel about the fact that I share a form of intimacy with strangers on the internet that some people feel should only be for my partner? And we're on the same page in that regard. What about watching content creation that's for adults, right? Some couples think that watching stuff on the computer is infidelity, which is okay. And some couples don't. In my relationship, we put no barriers on watching things, using toys, solo play. We put no limitations on that regarding our own agency, right? But for some people, they might. I know some religious couples that won't allow any toys in their relationship because it's considered like beneath them or undignified. I also know some secular couples that are threatened when their women have a friend, a toy, not a friend, a person, a friend toy. I should have been more specific. I'm trying not to get demonetized here on YouTube. Reminder to like the video, subscribe, and leave a comment. It really helps. When we're having these conversations, we are trying to get to know the person and we're trying to feel connected and have a best friend and be transparent and be honest. My favorite part of relationship building is you get to do whatever you want, mostly. If you're religious, you kind of have to adhere to the relationship structure of the church you're in. But if you're secular, like I am, my partner and I, we get to do whatever we want. So we have exactly the marriage we want, exactly the life we want. We wake up and do exactly what we want every day. We wake up and we get to feel like we're living alone, but with our best friend at the same time. We really have an ideal life for us because we built it together and we'll continue to build it together. It's really just about us. Like, obviously we think about our friends and family, but ultimately, like, I'm not doing life with my friends and family, which you should probably talk to your partner about because some people will literally pick their mothers over their wives. Make sure you're on the same page with who comes first in the relationship. So going back to the beginning, when we talk about resume versus va-va-voom, a lot of people settle for the va-va-voom because the passion and chemistry and that 10-second orgasm makes them feel like, oh, this is it. But that's not it, because this doesn't have the resume as well. You have to have the resume, values, compatibility, and the va-va-voom. But make sure you're picking your high compatibility partner that gives you that orgasm and gives you that companionship. Because if your relationship is only the passion, well, then that's hardly a foundation to build lifelong companionship on. All right, thank you for watching. I hope this video made sense. Please leave your comments, like, subscribe, and I will see you for the next one. Bye.